A woman goes to investigate the site of a meteorite impact, but ends up in the clutches of an alien being who intends to create a hybrid of human and its own species. The movie opens with a scene of Lena sitting in a sterile room surrounded by men in hazmat suits. Lena is the only survivor of an expedition to an anomalous zone on the coast of the United States. The men are interrogating her, but Lena can barely remember the events of the last 4 months and is unaware of what happened to her group.
I don't know.
And what do you know?
Lena's story begins when she gives a lecture at the university about the division of cancer cells. Her colleague, Dan, invites her to his barbecue after class, but Lena prefers her reclusive lifestyle and decides to stay home. Little did she know that if she had agreed to go, she might have avoided the terrible events that followed. Lena's husband, Kane, a U.S. Special Forces soldier, has been missing for a year. Lena is heartbroken and can't let go of the memories of their happy life together. In an effort to distract herself, she decides to paint the walls of their bedroom. Unexpectedly, Kane appears at the door of the room, and Lena can't believe her eyes. She rushes into his arms, overwhelmed with joy. After the emotional reunion with Kane, Lena tries to uncover what happened to him. She had believed her husband was no longer alive, as his squad was reported missing. However, Kane is unable to remember the past year, where he was, what his mission was, and how he returned home. His behavior is extremely peculiar and unsettling to Lena.
I recognized you. Your face.
Kane begins to feel unwell, with red liquid coming from his mouth. Lena calls for an ambulance, but his condition worsens during the ride. Suddenly, the ambulance is intercepted by armed individuals who take them to a secret facility. Lena wakes up in an orange robe in a semi-transparent room, feeling weakened. Dr. Ventress, a psychologist, enters the room and implies that she knows everything about Lena. She tries to find out what Kane told his wife about his mission, but Lena knows nothing and demands answers about her husband and their location. Dr. Ventress reveals that all of Kane's internal organs are failing. Lena suspects that he has been exposed to radiation or a virus and offers her help as a biologist. Dr. Ventress takes Lena out of the room and shows her the horrifying secret of the facility. 3 years ago, a meteorite struck a lighthouse in Blackwater National Park, triggering a mysterious rainbow-like phenomenon that began to spread. Despite sending several reconnaissance groups consisting of people, equipment, and animals to the anomalous zone, none returned. The phenomenon continues to expand, and if not deciphered, it could spread throughout the city and continent within a few months. Kane is the only survivor of an expedition into the glow, but he is now in intensive care and doctors need to decide what to do with Lena. Lena has just reunited with her husband after a long separation and is determined to stay by his side no matter what. After talking to the psychologist, she recalls the day Kane told her about his secret mission, which left her with a bad feeling. During dinner, Lena is called to the table by anthropologist Anya. She learns that a new expedition is being prepared to the anomalous zone, and that Anya will be joined by Dr. Ventress, physicist Josie, and geodesist Cass.
All women.
Scientists.
The previous teams have been largely military, so yeah.
Later, Dr. Ventress, the leader of the group, admits that it pains her to see the people she selects for the mission disappear forever. So, she decides to take matters into her own hands. Lena, who has combat experience, also volunteers to join the expedition and find salvation for her husband in the Shimmer. The psychologist notes that Lena can be useful on their dangerous mission. The next day, the 5 armed women, holding their breath, cross the border of the anomalous zone. After some time, they wake up in a campsite in the middle of the forest and realize that they don't remember the events of the past few days. However, judging by the food and equipment supplies, they deliberately went deep into the jungle, ate, and rested. Josie notices that there is no means of communication or compass in the zone, although all electronics are working properly. Cass suggests that the group head south to reach the ocean and make their way to the lighthouse, the source of the Shimmer. On the riverbank, they find a couple of boats and an abandoned house covered in different beautiful flowers. Lena is surprised to find out that they all belong to the same type of plant. Suddenly, something grabs Josie and drags her into the house, which is filled with water from the river. Her companions rush to help her and pull her back onto the shore. They watch in horror as a huge alligator emerges from the house and heads towards them. The frightened girls try to hide, not knowing how to defend themselves. However, Lena resolutely fires a whole magazine of bullets at the monster, and eventually it falls lifeless. Opening the alligator's mouth, the girl discovers that it is a mutant with several rows of teeth.
The mutations were subtle at first, more extreme as we grew closer to the lighthouse.
After crossing the river, Lena discovers that her colleagues had all volunteered for the mission after experiencing personal tragedies. Anya had struggled with alcohol addiction, Josie had contemplated taking her own life, and Cass had lost her daughter to leukemia. Dr. Ventress, on the other hand, was a loner with no family ties and had specifically gathered a team of individuals who had nothing left to lose. However, Lena chooses to conceal the truth about her husband's condition from her teammates and informs them that he had passed away. As they venture further into the Shimmer, the group comes across an abandoned military base that is heavily mutated.
Malignant. Like tumors.
The group, all of whom have suffered personal tragedies, crosses the river and reaches an abandoned military base covered in mutations. Despite their misgivings, they decide to spend the night in the cafeteria. Inside, they find recordings left by the previous expedition, in which Kane participated. On the table, they find a memory card and decide to watch it. In the recording, Kane appears with a crazed look and tears open the stomach of another soldier, revealing what looks like huge worms wriggling inside. The team is horrified by what they saw, but anthropologist Anya claims that it's not worms, but an optical illusion. Lena decides to explore the base and discovers the body of the same soldier, whose stomach is covered in a mat of lichen. She takes samples for research. That night, Lena has a dream about Kane leaving on a mission. Unable to sleep, she examines the sample under a microscope and notices that it divides into two completely different looking cells. Lena changes shifts with Dr. Ventress and asks her why her husband agreed to go on a mission from which it's impossible to return alive. The psychologist explains that every person has an impulse towards self-destruction, and Kane simply gave into it, despite having a good life and a happy marriage. In Ventress' opinion, this goes back to biology, since each cell is programmed for self-destruction. Suddenly, they hear a noise coming from the cafeteria. A mutant bear attacks the base, grabbing Cass and dragging her away. The group chases after her, but Cass's cries fade into the darkness.
Shepard!
The next day, tensions rise within the team. Anya and Josie express their fear and urge Ventress to end the mission and turn back. However, Ventress remains determined to reach the lighthouse and uncover the mystery of the Shimmer. Lena manages to persuade her reluctant teammates to continue towards the shore, as it would bring them closer to the perimeter and facilitate their escape from the anomalous zone. It turns out that Ventress had cancer and nothing to lose, so she was walking towards the lighthouse without hesitation.
You knew she was sick.
I guessed.
And you wanted to continue.
So the team goes back into the forest and finds parts of Cass's body. Lena hopes her partner is still alive and goes on a reconnaissance mission to find her. Among the trees, she notices a deer with an exact copy running beside it, but with a rainbow shimmer. Going further into the forest, she discovers Cass's body. Mourning her friend's end, Lena returns to the group and delivers the bad news. The team moves towards the village, where plants take on human-like forms. Looking at this, Josie suggests that the shimmer is a prism. It refracts light and radio waves, mixing signals together. In the same way, it mixes different DNA, creating hybrids of two or more species. They realize that their bodies will likely undergo changes too. The group stops for the night in one of the abandoned houses. Anya notices the lines on her palms moving on their own, which scares her even more. Lena can't sleep again and decides to examine her red liquid under a microscope. She's horrified to see that her sample also splits into two different cells. She has flashbacks. It turns out that while her husband was away on missions, she cheated on him with her colleague, Professor Dan. Before leaving on the expedition, Kane somehow figured out about the adulterous relationship with his wife. Since then, she has been tormented by guilt. Now she understands that it was not unfounded. Kane deliberately agreed to a hopeless mission after her betrayal, but even knowing the truth, he never once blamed her. Lena wakes up in the middle of the night to find Anya pointing a gun at her face.
You lying bitch!
The anthropologist, consumed by anger, disarms and ties up all members of the team. She takes off a locket from Lena's neck, finds a photo of Kane inside, and accuses her of lying. Lena remembers that only she and Ventress witnessed the bear attack and suspects that they might have done away with Cass. Anya, driven mad by fear, starts to believe that her colleagues want to dissect her to study her movement. She threatens to get rid of them when suddenly they hear Cass's cry for help coming from the house. Anya rushes into the hallway but discovers that it's a mutant bear mimicking their partner's voice. The anthropologist shoots at the beast, but it attacks her, brutally tearing apart her body. The bear turns its attention to Lena, but Josie manages to break free from her restraints and shoots the mutant. Later, Dr. Ventress decides to separate from the group to reach the lighthouse faster. She feels that they are all gradually losing their essence and she has very little time left before her mind is completely destroyed. In the morning, Josie and Lena discuss what is happening in the Shimmer. The biologist admits that she found foreign cells in her bloodstream, and this fate awaits them all. Josie only now realizes the value of her life and doesn't want to become part of a new mutant after it ends. She disappears into the flower bushes and eventually transforms into a floral figure.
One by one, all gone, except you.
Lena cannot contain her emotions and breaks down in tears. However, she knows she must continue on her journey towards the lighthouse. Finally, she reaches the ocean shore and breathes in the familiar scent of salt, reminiscent of her former peaceful life. She leaves her backpack on the sandy beach and proceeds towards the center of the Shimmer. The shore is now overgrown with crystalline trees and human bones, evidence of previous expeditions. As she approaches the lighthouse, Lena stops in awe, gazing at the bright beam of light shining from the top. Inside, she discovers a circular hole in the ground and the charred remains of a body next to the wall. In the center of the room, she finds a tripod with a video camera that recorded the last moments of this person's life. As Lena watches the recording, she realizes with horror that the man on the ground is her husband Kane. He tearfully explains that he no longer feels human and believes he is becoming a mutant. He decides to end his life by detonating a grenade, but before doing so, he asks the operator to find Lena if he ever gets out of the Shimmer. An explosion occurs, and Kane begins to burn. The figure of a man filming appears on camera, and Lena realizes with shock that it is an exact copy of Kane. Feeling stunned, Lena turns off the recording and realizes that her husband's doppelganger has returned home instead of him. From a tunnel, created by the fallen meteorite, comes the voice of Dr. Ventress, and Lena decides to follow her. For a moment, Ventress's face becomes dark and featureless, and she speaks incoherently. Lena calls out to her, and she falls to the ground, taking on her original form again. Ventress reveals that something has now taken root within Lena, something completely non-human. It plans to continue growing, breaking down bodies and minds into tiny particles until it annihilates all life around it. Suddenly, Ventress lets out a piercing scream, and a bright beam of light bursts from her mouth. Her entire body transforms into a single stream of light and disintegrates into glowing particles that fill the space around them, forming a fractal. Lena approaches the astonishing phenomenon, and the fractal absorbs the red fluid from her face. Next, Lena witnesses an even more astonishing event as her DNA divides into numerous pairs, forming a faceless humanoid with a rainbow shimmer. Frightened, Lena attempts to shoot it, but the creature does not react. The figure begins to move towards her, and she tries to flee from it through the tunnel. However, when she reaches the outside, she realizes that the alien creature is already waiting for her and begins to mimic all her movements. Lena strikes the creature with the tripod, and it hits her back with equal force, knocking her unconscious. When she wakes up, she tries to escape the lighthouse, but the creature presses her against the door, making it hard for her to breathe. Lena struggles to break free, but the creature only presses harder, making her lose consciousness again. The humanoid mimics all of Lena's movements precisely. When Lena regains consciousness, she realizes that she needs to outsmart the creature. She moves slowly and finds a phosphorus grenade among Kane's things. Lena tricks the creature into taking the grenade in its hand, and when their palms touch, the mutant takes on Lena's appearance completely. The girl pulls out the pin and runs away quickly as her copy bursts into flames. After Lena's copy dissolves in flames, it touches Kane's remains before the fire spreads throughout the lighthouse, burning all foreign forms of life. Lena observes the red shimmer and all the mutated creatures and plants it spawned disappearing. Her memories of the expedition end here. In the present, scientists are interrogating Lena to understand the alien creature's purpose. Lena believes that the visitor's intention was not to destroy Earth, but to transform it and create a new form of life. The scientists report that a new expedition was sent to the lighthouse, and all evidence of the alien creature's presence there were destroyed in the fire. When the shimmer disappears, Kane's condition stabilizes, and he regains consciousness. Lena visits Kane in the isolation ward and asks if he is really her husband's doppelganger. He responds that it is most likely the case and asks her the same question.
Are you Lena?
The answer eludes the girl. As Lena and Kane embrace, there's a flicker in their eyes, barely noticeable. If you were in the protagonist's shoes and discovered that you were a mutant, what would you do? Let us know your thoughts in the comments after subscribing to our channel and giving this video a thumbs up.